Goeiemorgen, goeiemiddag, goeienaand. Whether it is morning, afternoon, or evening where you are, it's always a good time to watch some plant YouTube. My name is Shanae, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you what I feed my plants in order for them to grow big, beautiful, and healthy. So if that sounds interesting to you, let's get into it. So before we really get into it, I just want to let you know that in today's video, I am only going to be sharing with you the products that I use. We are not going to have an in-depth discussion about the individual elements that is in these products. I am just a finance person, so I don't have a science background. I don't have a chemistry background. So all of those kind of things kind of just goes above my head. So I am going to literally just show you what exactly I use and what I've tried, what has worked for me in this hobby. So really in layman's terms, what I do feed my plants. So with that said, let's get into it for real. So when I started my semi-hydro growing journey, I started off with using the EHG Tripak, and I got that off of Takealot. The EHG stands for Easy Hydro Grow, and it really is that easy. The Tripak consists of 3 bottles. There is a micro, grow, and bloom. The micro is said to contain a number of the micronutrients that your plant needs, and you add that to water first. You would then add your grow, and that is said to have the nutrients to help your plants grow nice roots as well as nice leaves. And then lastly, if your plant is in flowering stage, you would then add the bloom component to it, and that is literally just enhancing the flowering. It is important to note that you should not be mixing those 3 undiluted. It will most definitely have an impact on the effectiveness of those nutrients. So like I said, add each one of them individually to your water. In between, wash the spoons that you use to add all of those different components. So these products were designed and manufactured by a South African company, so I absolutely love supporting local. I've had quite a lot of success using these products, so if you are a beginner, I would definitely recommend this as a good option to consider. At the end of last year, I did hear a lot of good things from people that use Silica and CalMag, and I decided to give it a go. I got those 2 products from a company called Umya Nutrients, which is also a South African company, and I also found the benefits that a lot of people speak about. Some of the variegated parts of the plant, it actually took a little bit longer for those to brown. And in some plants, it actually did not brown at all. So I really wanted to continue with those products. Seeing that I am already using the CalMag and the Silica, I did want to see whether it is going to be beneficial for me to continue with that entire range. And that is what I ended up deciding on for the new year, which is 2025. So from January 2025, I then started using the Umya range. And I didn't start off using all of the products all at once. I added one each time that I watered, just so I can make sure that if there is any adverse effects on my plants, that I know exactly which product is causing that and quickly assess what I then need to do with that product. So before we look at my exact nutrient solution, I do want to share with you that on the Umya website, there is a product catalog. And in that catalog, it gives you a lot of good information about the different products. It does tell you the biological and chemical benefits. So for all of the chemists amongst us, it'll be a great tool to look at all of the components as well as the chemical benefits of all of these products. It also gives us the physical benefits that we can see on our plants. So looking at what it will do to the roots, to the soil, to the leaves, to the flowers. So it is a really, really good tool to have a look at if you want to understand more about what exactly the products do, how to also apply the different products. So I mix my nutrient solution in a 5-liter water bottle. Very first thing that I would do is fill up this bottle with water, and then I would add my nutrients to it. So let me quickly go and do that. So I've added the water to my 5-liter water bottle. The very first thing that I add is the silica, and the manufacturer recommends that you add either a low strength, full strength, or maximum strength to your water. So the low strength is where you add 2.5 milliliter of the silica to 10 liters of water. Full strength is 5 milliliters, and then the maximum strength is 10 milliliters. So when I started off with, of course, the low dose. I'd add 2.5 milliliters to the 10 liters of water that I have. And also for a younger plant, so like the plant that I repotted last week, that I would start off with a low dosage of silica. And of course, in the beginning of the year, I also started off with quite a low dose. But now that my plants are quite used to silica, so especially the bigger ones, they get the full strength. I hardly go up to the maximum strength because I don't really see the need for it at this point in time. So let's then quickly add our 5 milliliter to our bottle. I normally just use these spoons. This is a 1.25 milliliter spoon. So of course I then need to add 4 to get to the 5 milliliter. So let me quickly do that. As you saw, I just added the silica. So I'm just gonna put the top on and then I'm gonna give it a quick shake. So the silica comes in liquid form, so it kind of dissolves quite quickly with the water. But you do need to rest this mixture for an hour for the silica to completely dissolve in the water. So while we wait for that to happen, we are going to have a look at some plants. So like I said, I did start using the Umya range in January 2025. So now I'm going to be showing you 5 plants that I got around that time or that I transferred from soil to semi-hydro in that time, and they would be the first plants that got the Umya nutrients. The first plant that we are going to be looking at is an Anthurium NOID. So I actually bought this plant as a Moronense cross BGI hybrid, but now that the plant is a little bit more mature, there is no characteristics of those two parents. I did reach out to the seller to let them know that this does not look like a Moronense cross BGI hybrid, and they agreed. They said that it could be a Moronense hybrid, which I absolutely agree. And when you see the plant, you'll probably see those characteristics as well. So hopefully at the end of the year, they're going to replace the plant with the actual Moronense cross BGI. But nevertheless, this plant is still beautiful. So let me show you what the plant looked like when I got it back in September 2024. And then below, I'm going to be showing you what the plant looked like in December, so just before it got the Umya nutrients. So during this time is of course when the plant got the EHG nutrients. So as you can see, there is a nice size up of this plant. So the EHG nutrients really worked, and that was only a couple of months. And this is what the plant looks like right now. And as you can see, with the wide sinus, this is definitely a Moronense hybrid as opposed to a Aquarium or a BGI even. So also quite a nice size up from the December picture. So the Umya nutrients definitely helps with this plant. It does have another leaf, but it got damaged during the winter move. So eventually that one will be cut off. This plant is not a fast grower at all. It probably grows a leaf every month and a half to 2 months or so. When it does produce a leaf, it does size up quite nicely. So really something to look forward to. It is a really nice plant. It has a little bit of a different texture. It's a little bit velvety, but also a little bit smooth. So I would say kind of like an in between those two. So yeah, so this is my Anthurium NOID, but possibly a Moronense hybrid. The second plant that we are going to look at is a plant that you have seen on this channel before, and that is the Anthurium X-Ray. This is what the plant looked like before, and you will see 2 plants in the picture. When I got it, the stem was really long, so I did cut it. So I'm going to show you both of them now. So this is what the smaller one looks like, and it is such a beautiful plant. I absolutely love the dark foliage that it has and the minimal secondary veins that it has. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's grown quite a bit since that picture. before it was just a stump, and now it has quite a couple of leaves. So the leaf size of this plant is always quite significant, but the last leaf, which is this one, is not a significant upsize to this one, and I was a little bit concerned about it, but then I realized that the plant was actually in catapult stage. So it just started catapult stage. So I think that is the reason why the leaf upsize wasn't as significant as I would have expected it to be. So that was the small one, which was at that time in February 2025, a stump. This is the mother plant, so the bigger of the two plants that you saw, and look at that absolutely beautiful leaf. So this is the new leaf. It does have some older leaves. This one did get a little bit damaged, as you can see on the lobes during the winter move, and the older leaves are just old, I guess, and ready to go. But if you look at this leaf, for instance, this is the kind of size of that I have been seeing over the last couple of months. So absolutely amazing. So this plant I did get back in February 2025, so I did not get any EHG nutrients, so only the Umya nutrients that made this plant to the size. How absolutely beautiful. But that is the Anthurium X-ray hybrid. The next plant we're going to look at is the Anthurium Raven Soul. So that is Anthurium Crystallinum crossed with Luxurians. I got this plant in September as an import and it lost all of its leaves. I dived back to a stump. I even forgot to create a plant tag for this plant. So as the first leaf was developing, I actually had no idea what that plant was. But as the leaf grew, of course, then realized that it was the Crystallux. The first picture that I have of this plant is in November 24 when it finished its first leaf, and this is what it looks like. So I did get the EHG nutrients, but I don't have another picture of around December, January period to show you what the growth looked like on the plant at that time. But I think pretty much a leaf, maybe two leaves that grew during that time. And this is what the plant looks like today. So really nice bulate type of texture. So it does have the characteristics of both the parents. So you can see the Anthurium crystallinum shape that it has, and you can also see the bulate texture that it has that it gets from the Luxurians. It does have a new leaf on the way, and it is a beautiful chocolatey color. It has started pushing out a flower from the petiole of some previous leaves, but it never fully develops. But this one looks like it is going to develop quite nicely. This plant, unlike all of the other ones that I'm showing you today, is in 100% leca. So from the beginning, it's grown in leca, and I've just continued with that, and it's doing quite well. So yeah, this is the Anthurium crystallinum cross luxurians. Alright, so the next plant that we are looking at is the Anthurium Dock Block F2 crossed with Magnificum. So I did get this plant as a little seedling, and this is what the plant looked like in November 2024. So quite a nice size up, and that was all while I was using the EHG nutrients. And this is what the plant looks like right now. So this plant I've always had some sort of trouble with growing, but I think now it is really sizing up, and I'm hoping that I will not have much problems in the future. I'm not quite sure what exactly it is. I think it might even just be that this plant is a slow grower and I'm expecting a little bit too much from it. But yeah, I really like it. It's a nice velvety type of texture. I like the bold veins that it has, and it's actually quite nice and dark as well. It does have some older leaves, but quite damaged because of the winter. And you can see that over here, this is the third last leaf. You can see over here that it was quite small, and then it really sized up. And I think now it's finding some sort of a rhythm where it really sizes up. So it does look quite promising. So for the next couple of months, it'll grow quite nicely for me. Yeah, so this is all of the growth that it has since the Umya Nutrients that I introduced in January. So quite nice. Next up is not an Anthurium. We are going to look at my beautiful Philodendron Luxurians. So this is what the plant looked like when I got it in May 2024. So only 2 small leaves that it had back then, and this is what the plant looked like in November 2024. So quite a nice size up since May 24, and that is all the growth that I got during the period that I used the EHG Tripak. And this is what the plant looks like right now. So absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love the bold veins that this plant has. It is a little bit lighter than I would like it to be, but that is because it's really close to the light, so it gets a lot of bright light. It is not as dark as the previous leaves that you just saw. So this plant I have completely transferred to pon, and it's doing really well. As you can see in that last photo, it was still in soil, and if you look very closely, you would be able to see that I actually air layered that plant. And once the roots had established, I did cut it off and started it in pon. The roots absolutely love the pon. I actually had to do a little bit of extension to the pot to help those roots to also get some water and some nutrients. It does have some older leaves, some that is ready to be cut off, and I'll probably do it straight after this video. But as you can see, this leaf is a very nice size up from the last one. So really happy with the growth that this plant has been giving me, especially in semi-hydro. Okay, so our water has been standing for more than an hour now, so I'm pretty sure the silica is completely dissolved. So next up, we are going to be adding the CalMag, and that is essentially what the manufacturer recommends. You first add your silica, let it stand for an hour, and then you add the CalMag. Then after you add all of the other nutrients, and that doesn't matter in which order, but for sure, silica and CalMag is the first one that should go in. So I did clean the spoon that I previously used for the silica, so now I'm going to use the same one to then add the CalMag. For this, you add 5 milliliters for the 10 liters of water. So I'm going to clean my spoon again. Alright, so now that we've added our CalMag, I'm just going to put the top back on and give it a little bit of a shake. So the CalMag is also in a liquid form, so it's quite easy for the CalMag to dissolve in the water. There's no recommended resting period for the CalMag, so we're going to go ahead and add the other nutrients. But before that, I'm going to go and clean my spoon that I just used.
A few moments later.
So like I say, our CalMag doesn't need a rest period, but I just want to tell you quickly about the feeding schedule that is also on the Umya website. The feeding schedule is a very condensed version of the product catalog that I mentioned earlier. The product catalog has about 34 pages, whereas the feeding schedule only has about 4. So really the bare minimum that they share with you on there. What I really get from that feeding schedule is in which stage of your plant journey should you add which nutrients. So it has a nice graphic of the feeding schedule, and it starts with seedling, transplant, vegetative state, pre-flower, flower, and then all the way from week 1 to 10, and then you do a flush. So these products were actually designed for cannabis growing, but we can still use it for our ornamental growing, of course. So what I take from that feeding schedule is you either add the nutrients as the plant is in the seedling stage, or you add it when the plant is in the flowering stage, which for our plants, especially Anthurium, it's quite easy to determine, right? When the plant is in caterpillar stage, then technically it should be ready for a flower. I normally wait till I actually see a flower, then I would add the nutrients that would enhance flowering. The feeding schedule also gives a nice indication of what the base nutrients is, what choice supplements are, and what beneficial supplements are. When I was starting with the Umya range, that is the order in which I gave my plants the different nutrients. So I started with the base nutrients. So that is pretty similar to how the EHG Tripak works. So it has the pot radix, grow, and flora. So they don't call it bloom like the EHG Tripak, they call it flora, which is basically the same thing. Radix is designed for the seedling stage, so it really promotes root growth. The pot grow is something that you should be using once your plant is past the seedling stage. So to me, that is pretty much once the plant has about 5 to 6 leaves, then I would start adding the pot grow. So pot flora is designed to enhance flowering of the plant. So I would wait until your plant is quite mature. And for Anthuriums, it's quite easy to know when your plant is flowering. So that is the time when you should be adding the pot flora. You should then stop using the pot grow because technically it's not needed anymore. And Umya also adds a fourth one, which is a multifolia. And I do have it. This is what it looks like. So it is a multifolia spray. And essentially it is a foliar spray. So you spray it on the leaves. So I normally use this container and then I dilute this multiflora spray in this bottle. You should use about 20 milliliters of the spray with 1 liter of water. This is not 1 liter, so obviously adjust it accordingly. I must admit, I don't use this foliar spray very often, and I think it just comes down to laziness, I'm not gonna lie. But you only need to add this once or twice a month, which is actually not a lot. So maybe in the next couple of weeks, I will try and be a little bit more consistent. Maybe do it once between my watering days, just go around the house and spray all of the leaves. But where I do find it to be quite helpful and that I use it quite often is when I do have stuck leaves. So the actual nutrient doesn't really help, but the water does. So I guess my plant does occasionally get some foliar spray. But yeah, like I say, I'm going to try to be a little bit more consistent, but this is also part of the base nutrients that you should be adding to your feeding schedule. Then they go on and list what the choice supplements are, and there's about 4 of them, CalMag being one of them, and then they go on to list what the beneficial supplements are, and Silica is included there. So you can have a look at that feeding schedule. Like I said, I pretty much use all of the nutrients I'm going to be showing you in what order I prefer to put them in. So the next thing that I normally add is this multi-amino. And this is not the original packaging. As you can see, it's in a Nescafe container. I dropped the bottle and it broke. I managed to save half of it, so I just put it in this container so I can still continue using it. So this promotes growth and also flower initiation, and then it's also a good source of nitrogen to your plants. This you need to add a little bit more compared to what you saw previously. So this is 1 milliliter for every 1 liter. So for 10 liters, we are going to be adding 10 milliliters. So let's go ahead and do that. Next up is the pot grow, and this of course is one of the base nutrients that helps your plant actually grow. This is not a liquid form, it does come in a powdery form. It's a little bit more vigorous shaking that I would have to do to dissolve this. So this one you add 10 grams for every 10 liters of water, and it does come with a nice little scoop that is, it says 10 milliliters on there, but assuming it should be 10 grams. So I usually just fill up that scoop and then throw it in the water. So let's quickly do that. Okay, so now I've added our grow. This one is not so difficult to absorb in the water, so a couple of shakes would do the trick. So this is essentially my base. From here, I'm going to split this water in different cans so I can use it with different plants. So if you did pay attention, you would probably have heard me say that all of those are mixed with 10 liters of water. This is only 5 liters, so it's not 10 liters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use another bottle. I'm going to throw half of this content in that. While we watch this, I wanted to quickly share where I buy the Umya Nutrients from. Like with most things, I started buying Umya from Takealot. As I was doing more research into this brand, I found that the website had more products than Takealot. Since then, I started buying directly from the Umya website. I think they ship earlier in the week, so I found that if I order early in the week, I get the products within the same week. but ordering later in the week resulted in me only getting it the week after. So if you're like me and want your stuff delivered as soon as possible, you can buy on Takealot. But very important, if you're cost conscious like me, make sure that the supplier on Takealot is Umya. I found that distributors of Umya products also sell on Takealot, and naturally they add their markup, which makes the price of the product increase significantly compared to buying directly from Umya. If the Umya supplier on Takealot does not have the product I want, I rather go buy from the Umya website and wait the extra week. But if price is not a factor for you and you value speed of delivery more, go ahead and support the distributors on Takealot as well. I know Fuzzy Roots also sell Umya Nutrients, but they only have the base nutrients, so Radix, Grow, and Flora. I did compare their pricing and it was pretty much the same as what you would get on the Umya website. There was one product that was £2 cheaper, but could have been an error. So good to also support that small business, especially if you already have plants coming from them, might as well add the nutrients if needed. So as you can see, I now have my two 5-litre bottles, which makes the 10 litres. The one I'm going to use for the plant that is smaller, that is in catapult stage and pre-flower. And then this one I'm going to use for the plants that is quite big, that is already flowering. So I'm going to add specific nutrients so that they can be good for that type of phase that your plant is in. So we're going to start with the nutrients that is specifically for the pre-flower stage. So the next thing that I'm going to be adding here is going to be this NC32, and this is a carbon integrated nitrogen fertilizer. So this protects the plants from chemical burn as well as leaching of nitrogen, which smaller plants really need. Also stimulates vigorous vegetative growth. So this you add 5 milliliters for every 10 liters of water. So saying that we only have 5 liters, we are only going to add 2.5 milliliters of this NC32. So let's go ahead and quickly do that. So this is a nice black color, so you'll easily be able to see once it is completely diluted. The fact that it is a water fertilizer, it also helps to quickly dissolve with the water. Lastly, we are going to be adding some kelp, and this is good for root growth, for leaf growth, as well as in the flowering stage. So pretty much for your entire stage of your plant, you should be using this. And this you use in lower dosage for the smaller plants and then higher dosage for the bigger plants. So for the smaller plants, we are going to use 1 milliliter for every liter. So saying that we have a 5-liter bottle, we are going to use 5 milliliters of the kelp. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, kelp is also a liquid fertilizer, so it dilutes quite easily in the water. So now our nutrient solution is ready for those smaller plants. So like I mentioned, for this one, I'm going to use this nutrient solution from seedling stage up until pre-flower or catapult stage. So for the seedlings and smaller plants, I like to use this little bottle that has a nice nozzle where it can easily reach into those smaller seedling pots. So what I'll do for the seedlings in particular, this I think is a little bit too strong for them, so I will dilute it. Based on how big the seedling is, I would look at the strength. Just add some more water to it. Like you can see here, the difference between these two are quite stark. So this one is really for those seedlings that are just kind of starting out. And so now we are back with our second base nutrient. This is going to be for the bigger plants that is already at flowering stage. And there's only 2 nutrients that I add for them, and it is specifically designed for flower enhancement. So I think I mentioned before already, this is one of the base nutrients, which is the flora. It enhances the flower of the plant, so it really promotes the plant to flower vigorously. So I would add this, and this is a dilution of 10 grams for every 10 liters of water. Seeing that we have 5 liters of water, I'm only going to be adding 5 grams of the spot flora. And the pot flora also comes in a powdery form, so it's a little bit more difficult to break down in the water. So I'm going to shake it a little bit more vigorously. Lastly, we are going to add this carbon K, and this is a carbon integrated potassium fertilizer. So this is also 1 gram for every 1 liter. So seeing that we have 5 liters, we are only going to be adding 5 grams. So this carbon K actually takes a little while for it to dissolve completely. What I normally find, even with a vigorous shake, the carbon K always floats towards the top of the water, and I'll quickly show you if I can. You see it floating at the top. Once it does get there, it does eventually dissolve. So normally I would give it a vigorous shake, walk away for a couple of minutes. When I come back, it's very much dissolved. If it's not, I give it another vigorous shake and then give it another couple of minutes and then come back in a minute or so, and then it should be ready. So let me give it another vigorous shake and give it a couple of minutes and get us back. Lastly, we are going to be adding some kelp, and this is good for root growth, for leaf growth, as well as in the flowering stage. So pretty much for your entire stage of your plant. Alright, so that is our nutrient solution done. So we're done with both of them. So this one is going to be the one for the smaller plants, and this is going to be the ones for the bigger that's already flowering. I normally go through these bottles in one day, but if there are any left over in both of them, I will mark them because they kind of look pretty similar. So I will mark it to say that this one is for the bigger plants and this one is for the smaller plants. So I don't get confused when I have to use them again and I over fertilize some of these smaller plants perhaps, and the bigger plants will be under fertilized if I use this one. So that is everything that I feed my plants to grow big and beautiful. Again, this video is literally just about what I do in my normal routine and what I find that works for me. I'm not at all affiliated with Umya or EHG, so I actually don't know if my method is 100% as they designed it, but this method really works for me and my plants. You probably would have seen the plants that I showed you earlier. They are growing quite nicely. So you can leave any comments and questions that you have for me in the comments about my nutrient solution. But if it is quite technical or chemical, I would probably not be able to answer you. I would probably have to direct you to a Umya consultant to help you with all of those specific questions that I would not know any answers to. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it was quite informative to see what I add to my nutrient solution to grow my plants as big and beautiful as I possibly can. In next week's video, I'm going to show you my watering schedule, so that should also be quite interesting. Until then, there is quite a couple of videos that also comes out midweeks on Wednesday and on Fridays, that you can check out before you get to that watering schedule video. So with that said, have a lekker rest of your day. Bye bye.